I still remember that night like it happened yesterday. The city was unusually quiet, no cars, no shouting, just the hum of the streetlights outside my apartment window. I was sitting on my couch, half asleep, the TV flickering with some late-night rerun. Then, through the thin wall that separated my place from the next, I heard it, soft at first, but trembling with pain, a woman crying. Not the kind of sob you hear in movies, but the kind that comes from somewhere deep, raw, real, and breaking. It was the sound of someone who had lost something they couldn't replace. And in that moment, everything in my life, my loneliness, my routine, my silence, shifted forever. My name is Ethan Cole, a 34-year-old architect living alone in a modest apartment in Portland. My life had fallen into an unshakable rhythm: wake up, work, eat, sleep, and repeat. I wasn't unhappy, just empty. My wife, Rachel, had passed away 3 years earlier after a long illness. Since then, the silence in my apartment had grown thick, almost like another presence. I'd gotten used to it, or at least I thought I had, until that night when I heard the crying. At first, I told myself it wasn't my business. I turned up the TV, tried to drown it out, but the sound didn't go away. It only grew sharper, mixed with muffled words, almost like a whisper of someone pleading with themselves to be okay. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I walked to the shared wall and pressed my ear against the cool plaster. There it was, a woman's sobs, low and shaking. The next morning, I saw her for the first time. She stepped out of the neighboring apartment as I was locking my door, a young woman in her late 20s, pale from exhaustion, her auburn hair tied messily in a bun. Her eyes were red, not from lack of sleep but from nights of crying. She tried to smile when our eyes met, but it faltered halfway. "Morning," she mumbled before walking off, clutching a grocery bag that looked too light for someone planning to eat properly. Her name, I later learned from the mailbox, was Claire Morrison. Days passed, and I kept hearing small traces, the quiet crying, sometimes late at night, sometimes in the afternoon when the rain fell hardest. I wanted to check on her, but I didn't want to seem intrusive. Until one Sunday afternoon, I heard something fall, a sharp crash, and then silence. My heart jumped. I rushed next door and knocked. No answer. I knocked again, louder this time. Then I heard a faint voice, "I'm okay. I'm okay." I hesitated for a second, then asked through the door, "Are you sure?" I heard something break. After a pause, the lock turned, and the door creaked open. She stood there barefoot, holding a towel, her hand bleeding from a cut. A broken glass lay scattered on the floor behind her. "I dropped a cup," she said weakly. I offered to help, and for the first time, she let me in. Her apartment was small, half-furnished, with boxes still unpacked. A sketchbook lay open on the coffee table, filled with charcoal drawings of faces, mostly women, all of them looking sad or lost. I helped her clean up the glass, wrapped her hand with a bandage, and we talked a little. She told me she'd just moved from Seattle, looking for a fresh start. She didn't explain why, and I didn't press. Over the next few weeks, small conversations turned into longer ones. I'd see her sitting by the window sketching, her face caught in the afternoon light. I'd bring her coffee sometimes, or she'd drop by with cookies she'd baked, though she never ate any herself. Slowly, I noticed something. The more we talked, the less I heard her crying at night, but I also noticed she carried a heaviness with her, like she was trying to hold together something that had already fallen apart. One evening, while I was watering the small plants on my balcony, I saw her sitting outside hers, staring blankly at the sunset, her sketchbook closed. I asked if she was okay. She smiled faintly. "I used to paint sunsets with my brother," she said softly. "He always said no two skies are ever the same." Her voice broke mid-sentence. That's when she told me her younger brother, Liam, had died 6 months ago in a car accident. She had been driving, I was supposed to protect him, she whispered. He was only 22. He wanted to be an artist too. That night, after she went back inside, I sat alone for hours. The weight of her pain felt familiar. I had blamed myself for Rachel's death for years, for not noticing her worsening condition soon enough, for not being there every moment. But for the first time, hearing Claire's story, I realized how shared our grief was. Different faces, same emptiness. From that night onward, I made it a quiet mission to help her heal, not with grand gestures, but with presence. I'd invite her for morning walks. We'd stop by the local cafe where she'd sketch people around us while I read. I helped her set up her art supplies, even made her a wooden easel in my workshop. And sometimes, when words weren't enough, we'd just sit in silence, two broken souls finding comfort in the same quiet that once haunted us. The change came slowly, like spring thawing winter's frost. I started hearing her laughter, soft, hesitant, but real. She started painting again, not just in grays and blacks, but with color. The first time I saw her new canvas, I was stunned. It was a portrait of the city skyline under a pale blue sky, with two small silhouettes on a balcony, one holding a cup of coffee, the other a sketchbook. "That's us," she said shyly. "The day you told me that pain doesn't define who we are, but what we become." But the real turning point came on a rainy Thursday. I came home to find her apartment dark. The door was unlocked. Inside, I found her sitting on the floor, surrounded by torn drawings, tears streaking down her face. "It's his birthday," she whispered. I thought I could handle it, but I can't. Without thinking, I sat beside her and wrapped her in my arms. She didn't resist. She just cried long, painful sobs that echoed through the room. I didn't try to fix it or offer words. I just stayed. That night, she didn't cry alone. After that evening, something changed between us. It wasn't romantic, not yet. It was something deeper, like two survivors building a new language of healing. We spent mornings painting together and evenings sharing quiet meals. She started volunteering at a community art center, teaching kids how to draw. She said helping them made her feel closer to Liam. Months passed, and I realized the same thing was happening to me. The silence in my apartment no longer felt empty, it felt peaceful. For the first time since Rachel's death, I could look at her photo without breaking down. Grief hadn't left me, but it had softened like an ache that no longer hurt to touch. Then came one morning that I'll never forget. Claire knocked on my door, her hands trembling, holding a folded letter. "I got accepted," she said, tears in her eyes. It was a letter from an art residency in Maine, a program her brother had once dreamed of applying to. "I didn't think I'd ever paint again," she whispered, "but you made me believe I could." I felt my throat tighten. "You did that yourself," I said quietly. "I just reminded you who you were." The day she left, the sun was bright, the kind that makes everything look softer, almost cinematic. We stood outside her car, unsure what to say. Finally, she smiled. "You heard me crying when no one else did, Ethan. Thank you for knocking." Then she hugged me, a long, lingering hug that said everything words couldn't. And then she was gone. Weeks later, I received a small package in the mail. Inside was a painting, the same city skyline she once painted, but this time the sky was ablaze with color, bursting with orange and violet hues. At the bottom, she'd written a simple line, "No two skies are ever the same. Thank you for changing mine." That day, I placed her painting next to Rachel's photo on my shelf. For the first time in years, I smiled, a real, peaceful smile. Because sometimes, the most unexpected souls cross our paths not to stay forever, but to remind us that life can still be beautiful after loss.